Hi and welcome to this demonstration of TermWeb 4. My name is Gustav Sjogren. In today's demonstration, we'll be focusing on TermWeb's automated export feature called Schedule Jobs. To perform the changes you need or implement a automated export, you're going to need a user with the administrator or system administrator role. The easiest way to know if you do have a system administrator role or administrator role, you can log into TermWeb and check if you have access to the system menu. The Schedule Jobs menu is a sub-menu to the system menu, and if you have access to the system menu, you will also be able to access the Schedule Jobs menu. To start off with though, we're going to be looking at creating a filter, specifying which terms are going to be included in the automated export. Depending on your use case, Schedule Jobs can be used to store backups or snapshots of your term base or specific changes to your term base over a certain period of time based off of a filter. These filters is something that any named user can create. In this case, I am an administrator user and I have access to many filters, but we'll be focusing on the automated export extract filter that I've created here. Now, everyone's filter is going to be different, saying exactly which terms you want included in an export. When it comes to exactly which languages are they going to be included or which fields are going to be included, this is something that's set in the export setting. What we're doing now is just establishing what concepts or terms that we want included based off certain criteria. In this case, I have a couple of criteria saying that at least I have an English term with a usage status field filled, and that the terms or concepts are stored within the published section of this glossary. So you can see that we have several different sections, and for whatever reason for this demonstration, I'm just saying that the terms have to be in the published section. This will allow us to see a subset of 50 concepts, 65 terms, that we'll be including for this export. Jumping now to the export settings, you can find these by going to the dictionaries and the export menu. And here we have our listed export settings for this term base. If we want to, we can switch between other term bases and see that they also have their own export settings. But in this case, we're going to be focusing on creating an export setting for the Technoterm term base, which we also created the filter for. I have pre-created a export setting based off of the filter that I created, the automated export extract. Now there is some customization based off of the file type that you use. In this case, I am using TBX, and I've selected 4 languages that I want included in this, as well as a number of concept and term level fields. If you switch and use some other file type like Excel, you're free to do so and select other fields to include. When we've created an export setting to be used for automated exports, we do need to run this setting once through, which means we click on the name, and here we can choose whether we want to map any custom fields. Typically, TBX fields cannot be mapped. They'll be in gray because TBX means that you have a set standard that you're going to export into. But we can, if we wish, change the name of any custom fields that we include. So for example, these 3 fields are all custom fields. This definition field is a TBX field. You can also see that here these are grayed out because these are all 3 TBX fields. Running through this entire export wizard, we'll see also that only 50 concepts were included, and that's the 50 concepts that were set as part of the filter. Once we're done with this, we can go to the system menu and go to the Schedule Jobs menu on the left. This will list any active or inactive scheduled jobs that we have. You can see these defined up here, as well as a result log. I mentioned that the automated export feature can be also used to store backups or snapshots of the term base or changes to the term base during a specific period. This is due to any automated exports that are created or run, the resulting export file is stored within the result logs, which means you can also go here and download these at a later time. So you can see here we have an automated export schedule job, a backup export job, and a English to Swedish export. And the use cases for these are a little bit different. We could, for example, send an Excel file to a translator for them to fill in and then have that re-imported into TermWeb. You can also use it for backups like I mentioned, or in this case we're just going to be sending an email with a downloadable link to a specific user. Jumping into this automated export feature here, you can see that we have the name of this. We also have whether it's active or inactive, and that is what essentially is defining whether or when this export feature is going to be run. You can see down here we have a schedule that sets next time that this export is going to be run. Export setting will define which of these export settings that we're going to be using. If you have not run your export setting, it will be grayed out and you can't choose it from this list. But if you have run at least once, it will be available for you in this list. We also can define exactly the path. Now typically we don't need to put this in a specific folder unless we're synchronizing it to an SFTP folder for use in another tool. In this case, we're just going to be creating a file called term-based extract, and we're actually going to define the file type as TBX. TBX is an XML format, so you could also define it as .xml, but in this case I want to send it to a system or download it as a TBX file, which means I'll have the TBX file type. You can also see here, for example, English to Swedish export, we can define also as for Excel's files, we can define them as XLSX. In the help menu here, you can also see any data variables you want to include as part of the file name. So if you want to, for example, include the date or a year, you can use %signs with YYYY included. You can see that this corresponds to the year example here. If you want to use months, use capital M, day and year, or day and month, or so on and so forth. You can do so by defining them in the name. In this case though, I am not going to be including that, I'll just be including this exact name. Send notify me email to is going to define who this is sent to, and the resulting export is going to be look like a essentially a result log with a downloadable link. And the user who has access to this link will be able to download this extract directly. Do note, if you are going to be sending this on a regular basis, you might want to define the runs to keep as low number, which means that they'll be continually deleted from the result log. This means that a export will only be available or alive when the runs to keep is within its limit, its cap essentially. Setting this to a lower number, you can see here we have automated export run a number of times. If we change automated export to a lower number like 3, this will remove any earlier exports. The only number that will be kept in the logs is 3. You can, if you so wish, run this manually, and the resulting export will show up down here in the logs. See here, this was just run. We'll have this be able to download if we so wish, and we'll also get a new message sent to us. If you want to send this downloadable link to more than one person, you're free to actually add additional email addresses if you so wish. Just remember to add a comma and then a space between the recipients. When all is set up, you can see also the next execution for this export. If it is set on a schedule, you can, if you so wish, also define it as a week or a monthly schedule, which means that it will be changed to when its next execution. But of course, you can also run this manually by clicking on the Run Now, which means that it will show up in the scheduled jobs log. I hope this was a helpful demonstration of TermWeb's automated export feature called Scheduled Jobs. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions.